Hi guys, and welcome back to Fragile Bridges, where it's about keeping the dark reaches of the Mediaverse connected, from the past to the present, and the mainstream to the obscure. I'm your porter with the goods, Marcus, and today I'm bringing you a package that I would have to have labeled as damaged goods. Well, not that damaged. But despite its flaws, I still really enjoy the 2012 crime film, Killing Them Softly.
Mark Trapman's game was hit a couple of nights ago.
Hey! Just give it all up and nobody gets hurt. It's only money.
So where do we go from here? We start with Trapman.
We got the two kids. Killed anyone? They cry, they plead, they call for their mothers.
And the man comes around.
I like to kill them softly, from a distance.
Now let's start with the man behind this adaptation of George V. Higgins' novel Kogan's Trade, and that would be Australian filmmaker Andrew Dominik, who's also directed the Academy Award-winning 2007 film The Assassination of Jesse James, which was also the first collaboration between the director and Brad Pitt. Dominik directed another crime genre favorite of mine with the 2000 film Chopper, starring Eric Bana as the infamous braggadocious Australian gangster.
I'll give you 20 seconds to produce some cash, else I'll fucking shoot you.
In all these films, Dominik displays that he is a master behind the lens, capturing beautiful scenes, getting great performances from his cast, but with Killing Them Softly, despite how mesmerizing the images are, the political message he tacks onto the story detracts from everything that's good in the film in a frustrating way. But we'll get to that later. First, the plot. The story is straightforward, following three career criminal fuck-ups, Russell, Frankie, and Squirrel, who, desperate for cash, plan to knock off a mafia card game run by local wise guy Marky Trapman. They think Marky will take blame for the robbery since he previously had his own game knocked over. After a successful heist, a mob enforcer named Jackie Kogan shows up in town, tasked with figuring out who robbed the game, handing out punishments, and getting the games running again. Jackie, along with a mob lawyer, work together to solve the situation, beginning by sicking a couple of Jackie's goons on Marky for questioning about the robbery and to deliver a vicious beating. Meanwhile, Russell makes a fatal mistake for him and the stick-up crew by bragging about their heist to a fellow crook who happens to work for Jackie. Jackie and the lawyer, now knowing who is responsible, go about exacting punishment on all involved. For this, they call in Mickey, a burnt-out alcoholic hitman, to help with the murders. But he turns out to be a useless liability, which leads Jackie to set him up to be arrested for a parole violation. Elsewhere, Russell is arrested for trying to pull off an ill-advised drug deal. Jackie then proceeds to bump off Marky, whose past misdeeds catch up with him, and although innocent in these events, the perception that he could have been involved dictates he's gotta go. A couple days later, Jackie finds Frankie in a local bar and gives him a choice: give up his friend Squirrel and help Jackie bump him off, or be killed himself. Frankie makes the obvious choice and reluctantly goes with Jackie to kill Squirrel. After they bump off Squirrel, Jackie double-crosses Frankie, shooting him point-blank multiple times and leaving him dead in a parking garage. The film ends with the lawyer paying Jackie for the hits, but Jackie chews the lawyer out, letting them know Jackie is owed more money, and it'll cost them more for him to do what he does best from now on. He gives a nice monologue about America being nothing more than a business, finishing with the line,
Now fucking pay me.
"Now just saying, I think it's a pretty damn good film." And before I get into what I don't think works about it, I want to talk about the things I liked first. And one would be the cast. The performances in this movie are fantastic. Ben Mendelsohn and Scoot McNairy play the criminal stooges Russell and Frankie to unsavory perfection. There's nothing likable about these desperate thugs, and that's how it should be. And it works to the effect of you rooting for Brad Pitt's character, Jackie Kogan, who is cool as Fonzie in this flick. Pitt's charisma and wisecracking, cynical comments are what really keep the proceedings from getting dull. Some of the best scenes in the movie are their car conversations between Jackie and the mob lawyer, played by Richard Jenkins, or as most of you know him, the dad from Step Brothers.
I don't give a fuck.
Their chemistry is great, and their back and forth dialogue is the best dark comedy you'll get in this film. You'll find yourself chuckling to these two debating on how to clean up the situation and trying to plan murder on a budget.
We'll sell him a party. Fly in, whack a guy, fly out. Quick 15.
Fly coach.
Ray Liotta is as vulnerable in this film as I've seen him since his performance in Guy Ritchie's Revolver. And he plays the character Marky Trapman with the perfect amount of fear. His character knows things are about to turn ugly, and he's the only character you truly feel bad for in this film. Rounding out the cast is Vincent Curatola and James Gandolfini, who make this movie feel like it should be an episode of The Sopranos, but in the best way possible. Seeing the two mob bosses of the classic HBO drama playing desperate down on their luck cons is a welcome change to them being the cock of the walk, and both actors are terrific in their few scenes. Especially Gandolfini, whose performance is cringy in a mesmerizing and effective way as he rants through his scenes about his failing marriage, past mistresses, just being unable to focus on the job at hand.
You take that to the bank.
Then there's the cinematography. This film is beautifully shot, and I attribute that to the director of photography, Greg Fraser, who's known for his work on Zero Dark 30, Vice, and Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. But he really shines in this movie. Although dialogue drives a lot of the film, some of the best moments are when Dominic and Fraser let the camera and the images on screen tell the story rather than the words. One of the best examples is the stick-up scene at the card game, because the camera work here creates a very intense atmosphere where you feel that things could go wrong at any moment and you don't know where from. Another example is probably the biggest highlight of the film, and that would be the drive-by scene. This scene could be a short film in itself. The slow motion camera letting you see every single detail, from the raindrops flying off of Jackie's gun as it fires to seeing the glass splinter on Marky's car from the bullet impact. It's a very romanticized murder, which is kind of strange because everyone else that is killed in this movie does not get a glorious death scene like this. I can't really explain why this is the only stylized kill, but it does work, and it's amazing to watch, especially accompanied by the song Love Letters by Ketty Lester, giving the scene a real music video vibe. And talking about music, that brings me to... Now, I'm a big fan of movie soundtracks, and in some cases I feel a good movie can become a great movie with the right soundtrack. Surprisingly, with each viewing of Killing Them Softly, I seem to find new songs I like or deeper meanings to the songs played in the background of the film. Music seems to be used to convey inner thoughts a lot of the characters. Songs like Life is Like a Bowl of Cherries, Windmills of Your Mind, and of course, This Town is Nervous, pop up at perfect points in the film, letting you in on the emotions our characters are feeling at the moment. With those songs, it's more about paying attention to what the song is saying, rather than just listening to a catchy tune. Although, to be fair, most of the songs are pretty catchy anyways. And that rounds out everything I liked about this film, which happens to be a lot. But now we get to the one major thing I did not like about this movie, and that almost ruined it. And that was how they tried to convolute the simplicity of the story with... On top of George V. Higgins' already simple but amazing story, Andrew Dominik tried to inject politics into his adaptation. I've read an article where he explains why he did this, saying, "As I started adapting the novel, it was the story of an economic collapse, and it was an economic crisis in an economy that was funded by gambling, and the crisis occurred due to a failure in regulation. It just seemed to have something that you couldn't ignore. I always feel that crime films are about capitalism." I mean, I guess. It seems a bit of a stretch though. Reading through the book, I never got a sense of an economic collapse. It's a straight up story of some guys who did some bad shit and now they gotta pay the price. It's a very simple story of consequences and how the world works or should work. Now that's not to say it couldn't work in the film. In fact, a couple of times it does. Things like Frankie and Russell only being able to afford dishwashing gloves and the most comical looking sawn-off shotgun you've ever seen for their heist, or Jackie and the lawyer talking about getting a hitman for a discounted rate and making him fly coach, are funny, effective ways of letting us know that the recession has even affected these mobsters and crooks. The movie would have been flawless if the point was conveyed like this throughout, but instead we're forced to listen to constant radio and TV broadcasts playing in the background, with Bush or Obama talking about the steps that must be taken going forward to restore confidence in the economy. I would not be railing so hard against this political message if it wasn't shoved down our throat like we don't get it. and I try my hardest to ignore the political shit in this movie whenever I watch it, but by God, it is so much. They jammed in 8 of these TV radio broadcasts in the span of a 92-minute movie. I guess not realizing that they're treating their audiences as idiots by reminding them almost every 10 minutes, hey, it's about money. Did you know that this movie is about money, and it's about people being screwed over by money? Oh, and by the way, this movie is about money, you idiot. It's just so heavy-handed and can be very distracting at times, especially during pivotal scenes. And it just keeps wanting to remind you over and over again, in case you forgot in the last 10 minutes this is about money. Well, it's about money. And it even kind of walks all over the ending of the movie, which leads me to one of the other things I kind of don't like about it, and it was the changes from the book. Now, obviously, when you're adapting a novel, you're not going to keep every single thing from it when you write the screenplay. But Killing Them Softly's sins are not from omissions, but rather from additions. About 90% of this movie, I'd say, is straight adaptation, but 2 things the film definitely changed that I would not say were for the better were the character of Russell and the ending of the film.
You're gonna need to get a stick. Don't do it by hand, mate.
Russell is more of a surface change than anything, and it's because in the book, he's not Australian. And with everyone else in the film having a Boston or East Coast accent, his character really feels out of place. The only reason I could see this change being made is a nod to Andrew Dominik's homeland of Australia and his previous crime flick about the Australian gangster Mark Chopper Reed.
Hello? Who's it? Is that you, Neville? Is it? You fucking tip rat.
But with Russell already being the wild card in the equation, having him with a completely different accent than anyone else in the film makes him feel a bit cartoonish. As for the ending, this is where the political message in this movie punches you in the face one last time. In the book, it does end with Jackie and the lawyer in a bar disputing his pay, revealing that Dylan is dead and Jackie will be doing the dirty work from now on. The movie, however, decides to have Jackie go on a long tirade about the history of politicians preaching words they don't mean and how we're all on our own in America and the idea of togetherness in this country is bullshit. It's actually a pretty good scene. Like everything, it's performed and shot well, but since we've been bludgeoned to death with politics throughout the movie, the way to end this film is not on this soapbox note. I somewhat agree with Dominik's political statements, just not how they were executed on screen. And that brings us to the conclusion. And in my opinion, Killing Them Softly is a good crime movie that unfortunately just misses the mark of being great because it thinks it's being subtle about its political commentary, but instead it's beating you into submission with it to the point that it either becomes comical or annoying. For me, it's a little of both. I will say I've never realized that mafiosos were so passionate about politics that they have to have it on at 24/7 in the background of everything that they do. But despite its heavy-handed politics, I still really like this movie. The acting, camera work, and soundtrack are enough to keep me coming back for more viewings, and I'm never bored of this film no matter how many times I've seen it. My final grade for Killing Them Softly is 8.5 out of 10. Now, if you're a crime genre fan and haven't seen Killing Them Softly yet, I really think you're missing out. It is an excellent adaptation, and if anything, at least read the novel. It's titled Kogan's Trade by George V. Higgins. I hope you'll check out either the film or the book. Let me know what you think about it too. Phew! Well, that was certainly a long journey, but we made it through to the other side. I hope you guys enjoyed the trip. Please comment and let me know what you think about Killing Them Softly, or what some of your favorite crime films are. Thank you again for joining me on Fragile Bridges, and now that I've delivered Killing Them Softly to you, it's on to the next delivery. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. Once again, I'm your porter with the goods, Marcus, and I will see you on the other side of the bridge.
Picasso never got called an asshole, not like you. Alright. Well, he was only 5'3", but girls could not resist the stare. Pablo Picasso never got